My name is Bob Williams-Findlay. I'm from the West Midlands. I am a long-standing disabled activist. I'm a pensioner too. I was in a former life a planning officer with Birmingham Social Services, and quite recently I needed social support, so I applied to get that from Birmingham. And once I got support, I found that I couldn't afford the payments that I had to make. And this was at the start of the pandemic, and therefore I stopped getting local authority support. I had to make my own arrangement. And when I did that, what I found out was that I had no external support whatsoever. So when I found my doctor about another medical issue, he said to me, "Have you had a letter advising you to shield?" I said, "No. In fact, I've not heard from anyone the whole time of the pandemic about my situation. I have been contacted by the local authority about, an OT assessment, but as soon as I stopped paying for support, nothing happened. And the question of the easement around social care, I heard about it, and because I was an ex-professional, I knew what it meant. But if I had been an ordinary disabled pensioner, I would have had no idea what was going on and why. And this feeds into the wider question for me, because from the outset, I have been alarmed by the language and the narratives that the government have used around herd immunity and the whole issue of safeguarding people. So language like clinically vulnerable, what actually does that mean? Because the word vulnerable have been used so many times in different contexts, you end up naturalizing it as if these groups of people, it makes common sense if they were to die and not see it in context that the vulnerability actually stems from both policy and practice. And if you look at the guidance from the NHS, it's very medical, very imprecise on what makes you vulnerable, or it says if you got this or that chronic illness or impairment, who might be vulnerable, rather than talking about why, why groups of people may be at risk and what they can do about it. Nobody actually questioned the whole bigger picture that there were lots of people in residential care who seem to be abandoned by the government, by the local authorities, and the deaths. More people said it was terrible that thousands of people died. Nobody actually questioned how it was that the pandemic could rip so easily through residential care. Nobody actually questioned why we are actually warehousing older and disabled people and why they are detached from their communities. And if we had community-based mutual support, would actually more lives have been safeguarded in a better way. We need to ask them questions. And probably finally, what concerns me is we are beginning to understand how things are all joined up. The pandemic did not come out of nowhere. It's part of a crisis within the ecological system. It's a crisis within how there's inequalities globally and the effect that has on people in geographical terms, in class terms, but also for older and disabled people. And if you go back to what I said about the early days of the government policies, there seemed to be no awareness of considering the actual needs of older and disabled people in disaster planning. So I think one of the things I want the inquiry to do is actually say to the government, you've got to rethink your disaster planning and actually listen to the expert, not the professional, but those on the ground who self-organize, who live day-to-day experiences of having to deal with our health conditions, our impairment, and the social environment that we have to negotiate. And we know the barriers and the isolation better than most people. Because what happened during the pandemic and the lockdown for many disabled people, that is our reality 24/7 because of the way society is organized. So we know how to deal with it if we can, but it needs resources and planning and inclusive practice that have been totally missing during this period of the pandemic? Well, I think basically it was a failure by the government to pay due regard to the needs of people under lockdown. It didn't work adequately with communities or local authorities or organisations to look at people's well-being, both in terms of their mental health, but simply in terms of the structures that need to be in place. Because, one could talk about me. I had to go and do my own shopping. I had incidences where in the early days there were massive queues. I was expected to go to the back of the queue and stand for about 20, 25 minutes. That was unrealistic. Also, trying to get slots to get shopping, that was unrealistic. They were often taken up. So, though it was a PR exercise, that there were certain time when older and disabled people might get time to shop or, or book online services. In reality, that did not deal with the isolation, did not deal with the increased anxiety that arose from not knowing what was possible, being cut off from family and friends. So really, there was nothing there, no infrastructure to support those who were shielded. And the information, as I said earlier, was woeful. It just increased, not decreased anxiety. So we need to think more about community-based support, mutual aid, and dare I say, I'm quite concerned that during the pandemic, we've talked about integration of health and social care in ways that I think will make matter worse. It will decrease, not increase, social support. So if this takes place and another pandemic came along, I think it make matters 10 times worse than they are this time round.